Welcome to another episode of the Tower 26B Race Rate Podcast. I'm Lubinski here with Coach Gerry Rodrigues. Coach, how you doing? But
I'm good. A new way of doing our podcast. I couldn't make it to your studio this time, so
well,
appreciate you accommodating me.
Jer, you know what? To produce the podcast, I'm telling you, this is a lot easier for me to have all my stuff right here. I can move around as one. When we're on the camera and it's me and you, mano a mano, I love being next to you and everything. But trying to think of all the different stuff, make sure it's recording, make sure the sound's right, make sure this is happening, that's happening. Jer, a lot of pressure on this guy. So this gives me a little more time to think things through and get things right.
Well, you're good at what you do, so I'm unconcerned. Totally unconcerned.
Make sure you close that mic there so we can get maximum Rodrigues. But hey, so you were out of town in Tucson. Tucson's notoriously hot, right? It's hot in Tucson. You were working with the USA Triathlon Elite Team, the potential future Olympians. But here's the thing. Let's talk about me, because this show is usually about what I want to talk about. I just got a sauna in my backyard, Jer. Have you ever heat trained consistently with the sauna?
Other than growing up in the Caribbean, no.
Exactly. So I'm from Chicago, right? It's cold, it's windy, it's the windy city, right? We're not used to this heat stuff, so my wife's idea was to get a sauna to beautify her skin. My beautiful wife wanted her skin even better, right? So I said, hey, no problem. I got Kona coming up. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to heat train. So we got the sauna, almost heaven, 6-person barrel sauna, so plenty of room for me and you to spread our wings when you come over for our next live podcast. Thing goes up to 180 degrees, but I'm in there with my wife. Tell me what you think of this. We're another day, and I'm in there for about 10 minutes, and Jer, it's like someone turned on the faucet full blast. I am just sweating like, but we're sitting right next to each other. I am sweating like you've never seen before.
So
and I look
it's not a dry sauna then; it's a wet.
You pour the water on the rocks, and it gets humidity in there too. So it's a dry sauna with the water on the rocks, get some humidity. I look over at my wife, nothing, not a drop of sweat. What's it? What is this? Am I the weird one, or is she the weird one?
Sounds like she should go race in Hawaii rather than you.
Well, you know what? She's the one. She's the weird one because she married me. But yeah, not an ounce of sweat. But I'm looking forward to see how my fitness, my heart rate, my biometrics progresses as I keep this consistent modality of training on top of the swimming, biking, running going into Kona in October.
So what's the impetus for and again, we're not supposed to be wasting time here because people want us to get right to the guts of what we're talking about. But given that we're supposed to do that, what was the impetus for the sauna?
Oh, my wife wanted it. She saw this almost heaven 6-person sauna deal through Costco. And she said, hey, I heard it's great for benefit for your health, internal, external, great for your skin, great for your aerobic engine. So she said, let's get the sauna. I said, all right, twist my arm. Let's do this. It was a great deal. Perfect spot for in the backyard. So I'm inviting all of our listeners, worldwide listeners, thousands and thousands of listeners. Doors always open. Come on over. We got the 6-person sauna in the backyard.
How's that? Glad you have it.
Is that inviting for me to invite all of our listeners, Jer? Just my mom would come in. That's it. My one listeners here. Hey, okay, so you were in Tucson for the Team USA Elite Team camp. You just got back from this. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the show, tell us about that experience.
Well, this is the USAT's high performance coach, Ryan Bolton. It was his group. So his athletes mainly, maybe 8 pros and a couple of amateurs, actually, really good amateurs. And then I had an opportunity to meet a bunch of his coaches, which were terrific. In fact, Jim, you'd be happy to hear this. Several of them listened to you on the podcast. So it was good to know.
Batman and Robin.
Good to know.
That's good. They're hungry for knowledge because we are just full of knowledge in this thing, right? We're just doling out the education.
Hey, but it was exciting to see on the last day. We did the set, Jim, of 10 times 150. This is yards on a 150 interval. Let's say at 80% effort.
10 times 150 on a 150.
On a 150 interval, and these guys were swimming 131s to 135s. And then we did 10 times 100 on a 110 interval. Threshold. They were swimming 58s to 103s.
Oh, wow.
Some going 58, some guys going minutes, some going 102s. And then 1050s on a 45-second interval above your threshold. It's 27s. I mean, these guys they're cranking.
That's moving. That's moving.
Good group.
So you being there, you were doling out the sets. Were you also giving them technique tips, or were they pretty dialed technique wise?
No, a lot of technique tips. A lot of technique tips. In fact, there's one new gentleman that's in the group that's, you know, swims fairly well for having not great mechanics. Swam in high school. And again, for you guys listening out there, Jim, his coaches did not give any technical help, and this guy was still able to swim close to 5 minutes for a 500, but he is technically inferior.
So he just has a great feel for the water. He has great
Big, huge engine. Yep.
sport-specific muscular strength, and he can compensate for those technique flaws with his strength and his engine.
I think this guy, you're going to see a 500 time for him that's probably 20 seconds faster than what he's done prior.
20 seconds faster in a 500, and he's already pretty fast. Wow. Okay, so someone like this, and you don't have to say names. What's the most glaring technique issue with someone of this level?
Interestingly, both things. We go under our tautness, alignment, propulsion umbrella, right? His tautness needs work. His alignment is the biggest hole. He has lots of alignment flaws, major outswings, and all sorts of issues. I mean, he's tacking down the pool side to side. So he has tremendous improvements technically to make, but this guy is totally present and engaged, and you give him some feedback and he corrects it immediately. So I suspect a number of these flaws, Jim, are going to get fixed up in several weeks.
Yeah, I talked about that on our stretch cords and core workout every Monday. And what I was noticing when I was coaching on the pool deck last Saturday is that very thing is we have a lot of our athletes in the pool, as they go down from one end to the other, they're listing side to side, or it's like they start on the right side, they finish on the left side. And I think a lot of it, and I talked about it on the cords of core, is when they turn to breathe and then they come back with that recovery arm, they let the momentum of that head returning cross that recovery arm over the center line. It causes this misalignment and this wavy movement in their swim. How can an athlete like that with that issue, because we just addressed this, they come back with their head position, and how do they not let that hand move with the momentum of the head to cross over the center line?
Well, and to your point, and sometimes that arm that's coming around, it doesn't just come over, I should say, sort of more circular. It comes more around, as if it's, how you would do a butterfly arm stroke, where the arms come around, where they're just barely, barely skipping over the water's edge, right? And if the arms were to come more around in sort of a circular nature, right, you wouldn't have the opportunity for the swinging momentum to have the arm cross over. And we've seen a lot of this. I mean, what's been your experience?
I mean, there's probably 60-70% of the athletes in the pool. We have 50 athletes in the pool, probably 35 of them were crossing over with that front hand, because they're just letting that momentum of that. But that's a good point with the butterfly, because you don't see a crossover in the butterfly, right? Because it is just that half circle with each arm, and you're not using those hips and that torso to rotate back to the center.
And it's simultaneous arm movement, so you don't really have the opportunity to do that, because in freestyle, you have one arm in front, almost one arm behind, right?
Yeah.
And that arm's recovering over, and if it's not coming over, so like in a circular motion, but going more around to the side, you're swinging it around, that brings a certain amount of momentum to the point, and the arm will cross over while the hips will slide out to the side. So you'll get that sort of snaking, movement.
Yeah, and I tell a lot of athletes, we do in the warm-up for the cords and core, we do the YTWL. You ever see that movement, the mobility exercise? You go to the YTWL.
Yes.
And when you're recovering, think that your hand's in that Y position, that the right hand as you recover with the right hand, left hand as you recover with the left hand, and then you're out a little further, and you're compensating for that rotation a little bit. So it helps keep that hand in front of that shoulder, which you always talk about as that alignment.
Right. So it doesn't matter, Jim, as you know, if it's a beginning athlete, a moderately developed athlete, or somebody like these guys and girls, ladies that I saw these last several days. These are high performance athletes, right? These are at the pointy end trying to make an Olympic team. It's the same. It's the same bucket of errors. You got to have tautness nailed down. I talked about it in every single workout I coached, and alignment, and then finally propulsion. But of course, all the questions come under propulsion. They all want to know about propulsion first. Well,
Yep.
it doesn't matter how strong you are and how much force you can produce if that force is not directed,
Yeah.
properly. And it can only be directed properly if tautness and alignment are in place.
Yep.
So propulsion is the last question you should be asking about.
Yep. And it's funny you bring that up, is that the elite, they still have to focus on these small technique issues. I was reading something about an NHL. I think it was a Tampa Bay Lightning. They just hired a skating coach, right? The guy that just works on skating for the players. And these are the top of the top in the NHL. These guys they make millions and millions of dollars a year, but they're still working their edges, working their crossovers, working their balance, one foot to the other foot. So no matter how high you go in the sport, you still got to peel the onion, whittle it down to that technique, whittle it down to the basics, and make sure you're always revisiting that.
Exactly. So I have a question for you. Since you brought up NHL, let's tie this into
Oh boy.
into what just happened a couple of weeks ago, right? We won a couple of gold medals.
Oh yeah,
right?
That's great.
And I'm sure you saw those games, or we talked about it. I know you saw the games.
Yep. Watch the women, watch the men.
Yeah. So let's tie this into triathlon for a moment. Triathlon is a sport that was initiated in the United States, and then in the 1970s, and then in 2000 it got into the Olympics. On an individual basis, we've won two individual medals, and by two women. And the first one was the first Olympics, a bronze medalist, and that lady, Susan Williams, was mainly self-coached, from what I've been told. And then whatever year when Jorgensen won, 2016, I believe, was coached by an Australian coach. So we really haven't produced, we haven't done as well, I think, we, meaning the United States, as we are capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
What has hockey done? What has hockey done to take themselves out from where they were, which is we were a country that were just okay in hockey, and then have really developed in the last, say, 25 years. I recognize we won the gold medal in 1980, and I think it was 1960 prior to that, but 1980 being the most recent gold medal. What's happened since then?
Well, you look at that. You look at the gold medal, but then you also look at who's playing in the NHL, who's going in the first round of the draft. And it used to be all Canadians, Russians, Europeans. Now you get half the guys that go in the first round are from the United States. Now in the 2025, 2026, half the guys in the first round, maybe a third of the guys, whatever it is. There's a lot of guys being drafted into the top league, and then we win the gold medals. We go around, we win World Cup, and we're vying for the championship at every World Cup that there is, Junior World Cup, Senior World Cup. So USA Hockey has come a long way, and I talked about this a little bit last week on our 2 p.m. call. Is in 1996, USA Hockey started the National Team Development Program. So what they did is they scouted and they recruited the best 16, 17, 18-year-old kids to come in, live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They brought in top of the top coaches to live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So everyone was living together. And they started this national team development program. And ever since then, year after year after year, every single one of the kids have been part of this national team. And these are the top of the top kids in the country, right? So they're recruiting.
Now, you know
all
this
these
because
kids.
you were a former professional hockey player, right?
So what I did in 1996, I have a picture of it right there. I was playing in Chicago. And I was a little too old to be recruited for the first round of this team. I was playing in the Chicago Young Americans. But we played against the first iteration of the national development team in some tournaments we were in. The next year I went to Bismarck, North Dakota. One of the national development teams, I think it was the 18-year-old kids, was in our league, right? So we played against them all the time. Then I went to Fairfield University in 1999 to 2003, and every year we played the development team, right? They would come play the college teams. Right. So I'm very familiar. I played against all these kids growing up. A bunch of the kids, many of them went to play in the NHL. All the kids came out and got Division I scholarships. But it was a huge commitment on USA Ice Hockey's part to make this investment in developing the future elite athletes of the sport. Right. So they moved all the coaches there. They spent all this money to move all the players there, to live together in billet families and housing where they would come and practice together every day. They would be under one umbrella, under one coach. They had strength coach, skating coaches, skills coaches, and then the overall head coach, overall assistant coach. They were creating this bond amongst the team, and then that bond allowed each player to blossom, each individual skill set to advance beyond what it had been doing before. Because before it was just everybody in separate islands, and then they would say, okay, all you guys come over here and let's go to the national competition. All you guys come here, let's go to the Olympics. Now they're taking this team and they're moving to each one of them. So they're not just a bunch of people out on islands. They're all in this one Ann Arbor cohesive unit going from there to these world championship events.
So in summary, they've sort of centralized the operation,
exactly,
rather than it being decentralized. Brought it under sort of one roof,
right?
And got the best of the best athletes in, and I presume outstanding coaches, right?
Yeah, one overall coach. Then they have all their skills coach, assistant coaches, but it's not a bunch of coaches saying we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this. It's one. And hockey's different than triathlon. It's an individual sport versus a team sport, but it's one coach making decisions for the best of the team. And then the individual skill coaches help the individual players for their specific strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I think we have some structural differences, obviously, in the two sports, but it's good to know how, good to learn what helped in that development, because it was really pretty outstanding to see that game and see then the excellence of play.
Another thing you look at, and I relate this to triathlon as well, as I was just watching Lionel Sanders' latest YouTube video. I was watching Christian Blumenfeld's latest YouTube video. If you watch the Team USA, they weren't built from the very best players, the very best US players in the NHL. I mean, they're all really good. They're all top guys on their team, but there's other guys they could have picked that would have been more explosive on an offensive standpoint. But they picked the team that was going to win the gold medal, that was going to be great defensively from the goalie to the defense to the forwards. They didn't say we're going to be able to score a bunch of goals because Canada can go shot for shot with them and they're not going to be able to keep up with them. So they said, right, what's the best defensive structure that we could build? This guy, Bill Guerin, is a general manager, and he put together this team, and he caught a lot of heat for cutting some guys out of it. But I relate it to triathlon is you watch these other professionals' workouts, and you say, oh, Lionel's going to do 3x5K at 16 minutes per 5K. I should go do that, right? But is that the best for you, right? Is that what you specifically need to work on to make you the best athlete, the best triathlete, the fastest finisher? You need to work on your strengths, your weaknesses based on what you specifically need, just like they built this team based on what they specifically need to compete with the other nations.
Right.
So it was interesting. And man, when they scored that goal in overtime, both the men and the women, but the men, it was like 8 a.m. here. The kids were just waking up. They had sand in their eyes, and I think the house shook. I yelled so loud. It was awesome.
I think I heard you here from Utah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So, coming back, full circle back to swimming for a moment, I watched the women's, I watched a lot of the Olympics, but in this case, one of the takeaways was the women's 1,000 final.
Speed skating
on the track. Yeah. The absolute elegance of the top three in particular, but especially the woman that got second, the woman that got first was this also very extremely elegant in form, but the second place was, I thought, even more elegant. Now, I don't know anything about speed skating other than I'm your casual observer, but I'm looking at this woman making it look, Jim, so easy, so graceful, as if she's not even trying. Now, this is a 72-second event, so she's going at max effort because it's 72 seconds of output, right? But she made it look as if she could skate like this for hours at a time. And I'm looking at this, seeing swimmers.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
totally.
the best in the world make it look elegant. They make it seamless, right?
Oh, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because I watch you swim, and I say, this guy looks like he's not even working. He's not, but you're going, at the time, maybe a minute per 100, right? You look like you're just floating on the water. Same thing with this sport. Same thing with the Tour de France cyclists, right? You look at those guys in a time trial, and they look like they're out on a Sunday ride, but they're putting out, 600 watts. It's the same thing. It's just like they have this they're relaxed where they need to be relaxed so they can work where they need to work.
So there's, I think the parallel is the emphasis on the near perfection of technique.
Yeah,
is critical, right? To be able to harness appropriate power directional power, right? Directional force, so you can attain the power that you need to go forward.
Yeah, and that's every Tuesday, Thursday we do our live bike ride at 5:45 a.m. with the group. We have 40, 50 athletes on there every Tuesday and Thursday. And I just worked it out that we hit our 900th workout last week, Jer. 900 workouts we've done live Tuesdays and Thursdays. I talk about it all the time. If your technique isn't dialed in, if your knees are wobbling a little bit as you're pedaling, you're losing power. You're losing transfer of power to the bike, and you're not going to go fast with the efficiency you should be. So every pedal stroke, you have to be dialed into how those knees are moving, making sure they're moving straight up and down. It's the same thing with that speed skater. If there's any wasted movement, if there's any technique flaw, I think you said you were watching the women, she goes from 700 watts per stride to 600 watts per stride, and she misses out by a tenth of a second.
I mean, not to, the men were elegant too, but there was something that was just, to me, more beautiful and seamless about the women's engagement of absolute finesse. I mean, it was stunning. By the way, I congratulations on 900 workouts. I heard that the word is getting around all the way to the pond in England, in London. I heard the Brownlee boys, one of the Brownlees was on your ride.
We had Johnny Brownlee was on the ride last week. Yeah, he showed up 2 weeks ago now. He showed up and he was in there. He was interacting with the group. I don't know. We have it. I put it on public for the day, and he must have saw it and liked the structure of the workout. But he was on there. The group's interacting. He said, "Wow, a really amazing workout, Coach Jim. I really appreciate that you let me join in on this one." And yeah, it was fun having him on board. We were doing some 110% efforts, and I think he was at 650 watts, something like that. So it was nice. It was fun to have him on board. He fired up the crew, and very unexpected guest rider with us on Zwift. But
that's awesome.
Welcome anytime. And he said he'll join. He said he's going to join in anytime he gets a chance to jump on at that time, whatever it is for them. 5:45 a.m. is what?
Yep.
Who knows? 3:45 p.m. in England. So yeah, that was cool. Nice unexpected visitor on that ride.
That was fantastic. So I wanted to sticking to the Olympics for a moment, I wanted your thoughts on this, and I know we're sort of slightly straying off a bit, but it's important, especially for our age group athletes. And as you know, that in triathlon, that sort of the big bulk of athletes range from about, I think it's 40 to 55, right? It's sort of the bell shape, the big fat part of the curve. You watch the Olympics. What were your thoughts on Lindsey Vonn deciding to race?
I saw that this was on our notes for a couple of weeks to talk about, and I am okay. I'm gonna bloviate. This is what we call bloviate. I'm gonna speak out loud to you right now, because there's a couple sides of the coin. As a competitor, the Olympics comes around every 4 years. You got to say, hey, you know what? If I can put my weight on one ski, I'm gonna get out there and do it, because maybe this is the last Olympics that she can attend. And from her point of view, she says, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. And we're always type A, Superman. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll get through it. I'll be fine. Now, she didn't have a torn ACL. There's no way she could have had a torn ACL. Have you ever seen anyone tear their ACL, Jer?
I've done it.
Sorry, you cannot. I mean, you can't move, right? It's like
I'm well aware. Trust me.
You move one way. So maybe she had a sprained ACL, right? So we know, even with a sprained ACL, you're compromised. You can't move, right? If it was torn, there's no chance she's putting a ski on. So she had a strained ACL. So, you know what? Maybe it's all right. I can put some weight on it. I'll take some painkillers. What she needed, though, was someone to just come out of the blue and say, give her the straight up answer, you are not competing, right? Because her as a competitor, and then she has a support group saying, yo, you can compete. You can compete. Try it. Even though she says that it didn't affect her and that's not why she fell, we all know that when you have that type of injury, you're compensating somewhere else. So maybe it's not the knee that caused the actual fall, but maybe she was putting weight somewhere else, or she's imbalanced in her hips. So what I'm saying is she needed a Switzerland to come in and say, okay, what's your issue? How fast you can be going downhill? What's the conditions like? You're not racing. You're not skiing.
So I think when you become a pro athlete like her, and like triathlon pro athletes, because I want to tie this back into our sport, right? And how we make these decisions to race or when not to race. At that level, now I don't know Lindsey Vonn. I don't know anything about her contracts or her athlete management. Many times these athletes get appearance fees, okay? And if they don't compete, or if they're injured, their income is compromised. So it's very possible that some of these decisions were also financial decisions, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the Olympic body wants her to race because it's more eyeballs. She's an attractive lady. She has a big media presence, a high profile social media presence also. So this is and at the end of the day, as much as you and I want to think that sport is about competition, sport is entertainment, okay?
Yep.
When you get right down to it, it's entertainment for the masses to watch. So they may be very well good reasons that we're unaware of that she raced. But where's the line that an athlete should draw in our sport? Because we can easily be seduced, as you well know, by competition. The day of the race, you've spent months, weeks, a minimum weeks, months, the years training for your A race. And then there's an injury. What's the line? Where is it just personal only, or do we need assistance, outside assistance, like you said, to help make those decisions?
We need outside assistance because me as an athlete, you as an athlete, Lindsey as an athlete, we're going to say I can race because we are, for the money standpoint, but from the competition standpoint, it's like a drug. We want to get out there, and we don't believe that can influence us. Think about Jordan with the flu. Remember Jordan's flu game?
Michael Jordan, yes.
But he went out and he proved us wrong. He said, I could go have a flu and still score 40 points or whatever it was and be amazing out there. But I think for most of us, we need to have an outside source that makes that decision for us. Says, Lindsey, you are not racing. This is dangerous. Something could really go bad. And she's going to hate it and she's going to second guess it. But then you look at this and say, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right?
So these, for triathletes, are these two sources? Would this be a coach, and would it be your physical therapist? Who are the sources you should be consulting to make this?
I think it's got to be a medical professional of some sort. Someone who's just very honest and very straightforward, and maybe not the best bedside manner. Someone who's not a big fan of yours, maybe a fan to an extent, but not someone who's like, totally a cheerleader of yours. Someone who's who's going to tell you black and white. Right? Either it's good, you can compete, you're not going to compensate, you're not going to do more damage, or you're going to compensate, you put a lot of weight on that leg, you put a lot of torque on that knee when you're turning from right to left at however fast they go, 90 miles an hour, 100, whatever they go down that super G, right? They're flying, making those tight turns. Someone's got to say, the knee is meant to support in those turns, and you don't have that type of support, it's going to give out, or your other knee is going to give out because it's too much weight on that, taking the weight of the other one. Now, I saw a note from Arnold Schwarzenegger about people saying, giving her crap about going out there and competing on one leg, and he said you can't say anything about her until you're the one that's in that position, right?
Correct.
Which is right, but I think we need someone to come in and say, hey, this is not a safe situation.
Yeah, we don't know what we don't know as to what went into making her decisions. Like I mentioned, you could have contractual obligations, financial obligations. There are all many things that go into it. Also, there's a perspective in her case about your world figure. What type of message does this send to kids? I mean, there's all sorts of avenues we could go down. But as we were trying to relate it to age group athletes, triathletes that are listening to us, in making decisions about if to race or if not to race. I want to draw a parallel as to when I raced. I remember if the water temperature was below a certain amount, when I was open water racing quite a bit, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I could fly to a race, drive to a race.
My elbow, it hurts all of a sudden. What the?
Because for me, although I wanted to win, the more important was two things. One, longevity, which comes about through enjoyment of the sport. And once I stopped enjoying racing, then I knew it would impact my ability to train and be motivated. So I had a sort of a water temperature rule that if it was below a certain amount, I didn't race. I think our athletes need to have some sort of personal judgment guidelines. I mean, if you're going to be racing and you know you're going to be in tremendous pain, and that pain could lead to further damage of whatever your injury is, perhaps you need to sit that race out, right?
Well, we get in this we don't have the luxury of racing every weekend, right? It's not like we're a baseball team where we play every day, or an ice hockey team where we play 3 days, right? We say, okay, I got to do Ironman New Zealand, which is happening Saturday. Right now, actually, I think it's starting. But I've trained 8 months for Ironman New Zealand. 3 weeks out, my Achilles goes, right? And I said, I trained 8 months for this thing. My Achilles is gone, but I'm still going to race it. We get this short-term view where, okay, we go and race it, then we totally rip our Achilles, then we're out for 2 years, right? We always got to remember there's something after this race, right? We get so dialed into one race. There's going to be another race. When I'm talking about us, I'm not talking about Lindsey Vonn. Maybe there's not another race for her, but I'm talking about triathletes and endurance sport athletes as we go into our 40s, 50s, 60s. There's going to be another race. You might have to sit this one out to make sure that it settles down and you're in the best spot possible. But if you try and go do an Ironman on something that's compromised, there's a chance you could be sitting out for 5 years, right?
Well, even if it's an Olympic distance race, it's still, a day lead end. It's a 2 hour and 45-minute event, all the way up to 4 hours for you folks who are just finishing. That is a massive amount of time to be stressing an injury. So whether it's knees or hips, or as we get older, lower backs, right?
Yeah. Oh, God, don't talk to me about that.
Exactly. So anyway, I think we beat this to death, but you get the idea of prudence in making decisions with more long-term views rather than short-term.
And it goes into training too, right? It's like if your calf is painful, your hip's painful, or your hamstring's painful, you don't just go, okay, I just want to run right through it. You listen to your body, back it off when you need to back it off. Go see somebody when you need to go see somebody, realizing, hey, if I back it off now, maybe I'll be good to go in a week. But if I try and run through this calf injury now, it might take 2 months to get better, right? Yeah. So making the decision in the moment that what's the best decision for now for the shortest time to recovery.
And then, tying that into injuries that are come about from swimming, shoulder-related injuries or neck-related injuries and so on. That's all. Those injuries, or one can become compromised based on improper technique, right? And in fact, you were asking the question earlier when I was coaching these athletes for the several days with Ryan, the national team coach. Did we do any technique work, or was it just hard training? Well, we actually dedicated. I coached 4 sessions. We dedicated one complete session to technique only. In fact, there wasn't a hard stroke. There was nothing over 70% of effort. And the first session that we did, although it was a longer session, it was about 7,000 yards. It was in duration, pretty decent volume, but it was a tremendous emphasis on proper swimming mechanics. So this time of the season, it's, we're in our base building. Coach Jack, what's the word that Coach Jack uses? Capacity building. Yeah. Base building, endurance building, whatever all these different words that coaches use for this time of the season. There's still tremendous, time and effort put into proper swimming mechanics, because there is no shortage of know-how or the ability to improve in this particular sport. I mean, this is a technically challenging sport.
Well, that's what bring it back to our age group athletes. Most of age group athletes are listening to this podcast, is they want to get in and they want to do 4,000 yards. And they want to go tell Strava they did 4,000 yards. They want to go tell their coworkers they did 4,000 yards. But what's going to benefit you the most? 1,500 yards of correct form technique work? And I'm not saying every workout, right? You can't just do form work every workout, but one workout a week, you really dial into the form, you really focus, you make sure you do the warm-up in the subscription program, you do it to the T as you describe it. Maybe you don't get through the rest of the workout because you're so dialed into that, but it's a crucial part of the performance, right? If we don't have efficiency, swimming's not about how fast you move your arms, it's about how much water you pull and the force with which you pull it, right? So if you don't have that type of efficiency, because you've just been rushing through workouts to get as many yards as you can, you're never going to be the best swimmer, the best athlete you can when you come out of that water.
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the athletes, Coach Ryan, was telling me about, Carolyn Tile is her name, and she was a collegiate swimmer. She was there at this camp, a terrific athlete. I mean, wonderful swimmer, Jim. She was telling him that when she was in college and went to Olympic trials, close to 50% of her workouts were spent focusing on technique.
It's great. It's great. And that's what I'm telling you. It's overlooked, but we need to really dial into it. Tautness, alignment, propulsion. And look this is the kind of stuff I can do because we're virtual. I can bring your book out. Look at this. Triathlon swimming, master open water swimming. with the Tower 26 method. Where can we get this? Amazon, Jer?
Yes, I'm so not good at self-promotion. I even forgot to take that book with me to this camp because I think some of these athletes would benefit from actually reading this.
So we go in Barnes & Noble every so often, me
Yes.
and the kids, because the kids love looking at the toys. Mason, as soon as he walks in, he knows right where to run to find this book.
Are
and
you
he knows
serious?
what page to open it to find Dad.
To find Daddy on it?
He knows where to find Dad. You go, hey, there's Dad. He's in a book in Barnes & Noble. He knows exactly where to run. He knows the book. He knows what page to open to, and he opens it.
Could you go back to that page again, if you don't mind? Because
yeah, so I opened up a page. It's a page of everyone who's in the book. There you go. Got the page
Yes.
of everyone in the book.
So if you look in the top left, if you're for viewing, you'll see Kathleen Howell. I don't even know how to exactly that's good. Kathleen on the top. Howell. Kathleen called me last week, and this is a perfect example of, without disclosing too much of the conversation, she has a shoulder injury, and she wanted some advice on surgery versus rehab versus how to approach, similar to what we're talking about earlier with Lindsey Vonn, right? And Kathleen, like all of us, has a certain amount of volume in her mind that she should be attaining each week, and although she did quite a bit of rehab on her shoulder, once she started approaching the volume that she was approaching prior, the shoulder started giving out again. Mm-hmm. So we spent a fair amount of time trying to address less emphasis on the volume, more emphasis on proper technique. And for swimmers, those who, and this occurs with our athletes too, Jim, they want to go hard every workout, right?
Oh, every workout.
Many times.
Yeah,
it was a matter of trying to encourage Kathleen to go easier, because swimmers have this thing that they just want to drill away to at every workout. And I don't mean literally do swimming drills, just drill themselves into the ground or into the water with hard training, that she has to have some easier sessions, super easy, where she just focuses on technique with really easy intervals.
Yeah, we never relate it to running, right? Running, you don't go out and do intervals every single session. You go out for an easy run, you go out for a long run, you do some tempo, you do some intervals, and it's not that way in swimming so much. It's like, okay, I gotta go do a major quality set every single time I go and swim, and we forget, hey, let's do some longer, lower end efforts like you prescribed in the subscription program. Like, not every single set is 95% plus. We get a lot of 70% efforts, a lot of 75% pulls. It's like all this stuff is just like running, going out and running at an easy pace for an hour. You got to do the same thing in swimming.
Correct, and it's easy to be seduced by competition or a date that's coming up for competition, and therefore override prudence, right? Yep. Of being mindful and going easier. And because, to your point, think of it, all swim sessions are in a pool. It would be like all running sessions being on a track. So on the track, you just feel it. I got to run hard, right? Because I'm on the track. And it's somewhat the same in swimming. I'm in a swim pool. It's the version of the track in running. And you just feel like I really have to go super hard. Well, not really. You have to know what zones to train in properly. And then especially if you have some sort of nagging injury, which this podcast is more about how to manage those injuries, learning to go easy and manage those efforts so you can then have a better outcome.
I was actually just listening to watching the YouTube video, Christian Blumenfeld leading into Ironman New Zealand. And he's racing right now. And he was saying he was in Mallorca training with another Norwegian professional. And they had done intervals one day on the bike, and he blew away this other professional. And the next day was supposed to be an easy bike. But the guy he was training with, and I forget his name, he was embarrassed, or he was pissed that he got blown away on the interval day. So on the easy ride day, he went hard, and Christian had to go hard to keep up with this guy. So they ended up making the easy ride a 90% ride for 2 or 3 hours, whatever it was. So then they went into the next day and they were totally blasted, but they had intervals to do on the track and intervals to do in the pool, which they had to change the intervals in the pool because they were too beat up from the bike ride they did the day before, which was supposed to be an easy ride, right? So you can't go hard, because maybe you can do it for 1, 2, 3 days, but that 4th day, the 5th day, it's going to catch up to you, and then you're going to be on that downward spiral for a week, 2 weeks. So I'll be interested to see how he races. If that's the type of training he was doing, he was letting other athletes influence him, what's going to happen when he's got to run the back half of that marathon? Is the fatigue in the legs still from racing every workout with this other pro who's not racing New Zealand?
Right.
And you
Huh?
see it at Kona every year, right? You see all these guys go out to Kona 2 months early and train together, and every training session turns into a measuring contest, right? They're measuring something. Use your imagination, but they're not sticking to their effort levels they should be sticking to. So by the time race date comes, they're just this in the hole, too fatigued, and they end up walking the run.
Well, you've made this point, I think it was on one of our 2 p.m. calls. I'm not sure if it was on our podcast, but if it was, I apologize for repeating it, but it's worth repeating. In today's world of social media, because your workouts get uploaded, many athletes, to Strava, right? Or whatever your athletic social platform is, everyone's viewing what you're putting up, and you feel that there seems to be like this social pressure that I have to put up good numbers. I did X number of 100s at such and such a pace, or my wattage was XYZ at my peak wattage in my workout. As my son told me who's now 27, when he was 12 years old, he said, "Daddy, social media, I don't think is a good thing." And he gave me a bunch of reasons why 15 years ago as a 12-year-old. And one of the negative things is, I think, the comparison, always looking at yourself, trying to compare yourself to others, or wanting others to give you accolades for your workout.
I love the accolades that I get because I go out and most of my runs are like 10-minute pace runs. Like I'd say 90% of my runs are 10-minute pace runs. Then I go into race day and I run a 250 marathon, right? But like a bunch of our athletes watch my Strava and they say, how the hell do you run a 250 after all your training being 9, 10, 11-minute pace runs going into it? It's because I know myself. I know if I go and try and go hard, swimming, biking, running, session after session after session, I get hurt. My calves go, my hips go.
And you're a big guy. I mean,
I
you're
can't sustain
carrying
the
a
load.
lot of muscle here.
Right. Hey, by the way, last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, I talked about fat camp. I had to go to fat camp. I got to go back to fat camp, Gerry. 203 last night. 203 pounds last night. I weighed myself.
You're getting back into the pro hockey days.
203. Hey, pro hockey days. Look at this picture. Look, now I can show this picture. There I am. That's my first. I got a picture showing right there. It's my first duathlon I've ever did. 2024. Right there.
There's some serious guns on there.
Look at that gun. 478.
2004, like you mean, not 2024.
Sorry, 2004. I did that same thing on the 2 p.m. call. Look at that gun. That's huge. Okay, so that being said, you have trained for you. Just like the USA hockey team made a team that won for them, you have to train for your specific demands, and you can't be measuring yourself against what everybody else is doing on Strava.
So, we don't tackle, and we've made this decision, 8 years ago, whenever it was we started these podcasts, we don't take on social issues, right? It's not our thing. We stay in our lane. We talk about triathlon, swimming, and at times
ice hockey. Talk about
a little bit of biking and running, but we just did with ice hockey, but we tied it into performance. So I want to bring up Peter Attia's name, but this is not the social issue side of it as to Peter Attia making phone calls or correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein. This has nothing to do with that, but it indirectly does. There's been a lot of backlash in the media about Peter because he has had correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein going back 20 years or however long it was. I don't even want to touch that. I have no judgment on that I want to share publicly. But what I do want to say, though, is not because Peter had contact with Jeffrey Epstein, it disqualifies the quality of work that Peter Attia has done. And I think the quality of work that he has done is outstanding. I am glad to see that he's continued to do that work, because I'm sure there's lots of backlash that he's received publicly and probably privately. And not because we've made mistakes in life, and this is not a judgment here that he's made a mistake, but the fact is he is being judged. And let's make the presumption there was a mistake, just for the purpose of the point that I'm trying to make here. If somebody makes a mistake, it doesn't disqualify the work and the quality of work that they've done outside of that mistake. So I think Peter Attia has done terrific work. He continues to do terrific work. He's been a great source for many athletes and non-athletes, but for us in the athletic world. And I'm glad that he's continuing to do his work, and would like us not to disqualify the work that he's done and think it's garbage because of you make the association because he had whatever that relationship looked like with Jeffrey Epstein, or whatever the facts are or are not, doesn't disqualify the quality of work that he's done. So that's the message I want to send. publicly because I've been asked about it. And
Well, when the truth comes out about me and all the correspondence between me and you come out, are they going to disqualify triathlon swimming, master open water swimming with the Tower 26 method? No, it's still there. It's quality work that you did. You just had the shortcomings of being in association with me, right? But you still do great work, Jer.
that's a good one.
You know what I'm saying?
Well said. Well said. So should we do a workout of the episode? What's your...
You hear the laughing just now? Did you hear
I
that?
did not. Sorry. What was that?
Oh, did I only hear that? Okay, so that being said, let's get into the workout of the episode. But hey, the LA Marathon is this week. Do you know that? This weekend, this Sunday is the LA Marathon. Our Andy Blow of Precision Hydration is in town. I'm meeting with him yet. I'm going tomorrow to see him, to hang out with him a little bit at the
What
Expo.
a great guy, isn't he?
Dodger Stadium.
Yep.
But here's the thing. There are now the nutrition sponsor on the LA Marathon course, Precision Hydration. I think it's the best thing that the LA Marathon ever did is bring these guys on. The LA Marathon is maybe one of the toughest marathons there is. It is so hard.
It's a deceiving course.
It is so deceiving. And by the time you go down Santa Monica Boulevard, you make a right on Sepulveda. I swear to God, there's snipers in the building just taking out hamstrings, right? Bop, bop, bop. There's people falling all over the place on Sepulveda. You're going Sepulveda, Wilshire, right before you make the left. People are down, left, right. People are down on every side of Sepulveda because it's a slight incline. You have this long stretch before that on Santa Monica Boulevard, totally exposed. It's hot. The humidity is rising as you get closer to the beach. It's exposed. The sun's beating down on you. You're about 18 miles in, so you're at the wall. You make this right on Sepulveda, and it's just boom, everybody blows up, right? So they're going to have pH 1000 at all of the aid stations.
Oh, good.
Every mile, they're having pH 1000 on course. I think that's going to help these athletes once they get to the wall, stay on top. They're going to be on top of their sodium from the start, and it's really going to head it off of the pass. We're going to see less snipers taking athletes out on Sepulveda Boulevard, have stronger finishes because of that on the course. Before it was, I don't even know what it was. It was some watered down, maybe noon or something, and cliff shots. But now they're getting the quality product, the Precision Hydration, and I think we're going to see more success on course. No joke. Not just because they support the show. I'm saying that I think it's a good thing for the runners on course.
Well, they've put such a tremendous amount of time and money into athletic research regarding hydration and their products. So this is finally good science coming into sport, right?
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. And Andy's actually running the race, so he's running the marathon. I'm gonna give him the inside tip. Another inside tip for that race: these runners got to run down the middle of the street. And I see a lot, and this goes for any marathon, Ironman. They're on streets, right? The streets are cambered.
They are, yeah.
So when it rains out, the water goes into the gutter flushes the waterway into the sewer. If you're running on that camber for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 miles, your body might be okay. But the miles add up, that imbalance adds up. And if you're imbalanced like that for extended periods of time, as you get further and further into the race, that's where the cramps happen, the imbalances happen, the injuries start to kick up as those miles add up. So if you're running the LA Marathon or any marathon out there, your best bet is to stay as close to the center of the road as you can. At times, you're going to have to go on either side, but the sooner you can get back to more even surface, the better off you're going to be when you get to mile 18, 19, 20, 21, because you're creating less imbalance stride to stride to stride. So LA Marathon's a big one with that because we have a big camber in those roads because of, all the times it rains here.
Oh, absolutely.
That was sarcasm. It doesn't rain much, but there's a big camber for when it does rain because there's so much crap on the road. So you want to get in the workout of the episode? I think it's a good one to go off of what we were talking about. I think the one that you put up yesterday at coaching.tower26.com is a good example of pacing and making sure that you're pacing it out accordingly and not overshooting it.
Yeah, let's pull it up. See what you got there.
Let me find it. Where is it at? Safari. Let's share that. Okay. So do you remember which one this was, Jer?
Well, this would be session 2, week 7, right? Are we week 7 or week 8 in our plan at the moment? I can quickly look it up for you. If that helps.
Why don't you look it up while I'm bringing this up?
Yeah, it's week 7, phase 2.
Okay, you start talking through it and start describing it. I'm trying to find it in my computer here.
Well, as you know, during this particular phase, because we're not into the racing phase, yes, there are one or two races, but the big fat portion of the curve is will start up in another month or so. We tend to have longer warm-ups during this period of time. So we have an approximate 10-minute warm-up, and then we have another technical warm-up segment after that that's probably about, I would say it takes about 20, 22 minutes in duration. So there's probably 30 full minutes of warming up before we actually get into the main set. And the first two segments are always have something technical related. So it's laid out there for you. Jim will open that workout up so the public can see it. But once you got into the main set was, we had an approximate, I would say it's about an 8-minute pull, Jim, as you know, ankle strap, snorkel. And this time we had one chamber filled. So we're starting to add some load, some stress with the buoys that we use. The caps can be taken off and water could be added. So there's some extra load on there. And that was at a sort of a 70% effort, 1 minute rest after that. And then we swam 2 reps at half the distance. So in this example, the first distance was a 600. We then did 2 300s. Those were swim, increased effort to 80%, and those were just 30 seconds rest between each. And then we went into 4 swims at half the distance again. So this example, 4 times 150. On those, we pushed up to threshold level, 85 to 90% of maximum heart rate.
So your first pull was pretty easy, 70%, and then the next
70%, but with the weighted buoy.
Right. So the next 2, you bring it up in effort. So if you want to bring it up in effort, you got to go. The first one has to be easy. You can't go all one speed.
Correct. Well, we took the gear off, and then we swam the 2 reps at 80% effort. Those were 2 300s, 30 seconds rest in between. And then the last segment, because this main set has 3 segments to it, the last segment was 4 times 150. And those were really pressing your upper aerobic capacity. And then we took a break, and we repeated that, Jim, as you can see, 2 cycles through. And then we had just an easy warm down after.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last episode, is the pacing is key, and it's crucial this one. But it's also what we were talking about, right? We don't want to just drill it every single set. We got to make sure we're working those efforts, so we're working the whole spectrum of fitness.
And, there's that whole thing about how much time you should spend in zone 2 training. And so you can look at that first pull as, not look at it, it is in zone 2. And you're going to have to put your technical hat on and really focus on good mechanics, because you have that weighted buoy on, right, which is going to give you some extra load. So you have to pay attention to stroke mechanics.
Yep. And go to coaching.tower26.com to check out that workout and to subscribe. We are getting tons of new subscribers every day, so don't miss out on that, because those athletes who are subscribing now, bud, they're going to leave everybody else in the dust. So you're doing an amazing job with the audio file, all the video files, all the detail in the workout. And I'm telling you,
this last audio file was you. We put you in
that's
there.
Right.
I tagged your audio file.
Well, I bloviate a little more than the normal person. But coaching.tower26.com, join the crew, and then you get the weekly email from yours truly with all of our team discounts, all my nuggets of wisdom and all that. So that comes out every Tuesday. And
you get to join in. I think importantly, to your point, you get to join in your Monday Chords and Core session, right? Which is
Monday
critical.
Chords and Core. We have our Tuesday educational call, 2 p.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. And we got a lot of bells and whistles going on with that Coaching at Tower 26 plan. So join in there, guys. The more the merrier. We're having a lot of fun with it. So let's keep doing that. I actually got a question from a listener here that just came in, Gerry. Can I read this to you?
Sure, of course.
This came to me. I say your name should be the questions, but it came to me for some reason. So
all right, good.
I don't know. Gerry at tower26.com if you guys have questions. But this question is from Tim Holm. Tim said, "Hey, Jim, I thought this would be an interesting topic to cover on your podcast. When I track my heart rate while swimming with my Form goggles, the max I ever achieve is 10 to 15 beats per minute lower than when I try to achieve max heart rate while running or biking. Why is this? And when your workouts calibrate efforts to percentage of max heart rate, for example, 85% of max heart rate, should I take the percentage of my swimming max heart rate? I think this is the case. Thank you, Tim." Tim, thanks a lot for writing in. This is a great question.
It is a good question. And the answer is yes, Tim. Would be of your maximum swimming heart rate, which is lower than your
maximum swimming heart rate, right?
Your maximum swimming heart rate is lower than your maximum running or riding heart rate. And in fact, heart rates can be very sport specific too, as you know. But in the case with swimming, you are horizontal rather than vertical. So there's less stress. And two, your body weight is subsidized by the water or displaced. So heart rates are lower. So you'd have to test and find your maximum heart rate, and then you can do your percentages accordingly. But yes, it is lower.
Yeah.
And in fact, it should even be lower because we want to teach more in triathlon swimming about reducing the amount of effort that you put into kicking, because kicking, these are your larger muscle groups, right, Jim? Your quads, your thighs, your glutes. Yep. These are large muscle groups. Most triathletes, many triathletes are not very good kickers, so you're inefficient. It drives heart rate higher because these are large muscle groups. So the cost is a lot. The cost meaning in heartbeats, and the return is negligible, if any. In fact, it could be negative return for some triathletes. So you want to manage the legs, which will even lower heart rate a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, the same goes for biking and running. You know, you're going to have a higher heart rate in running than you are going to have in cycling because you're standing, you're horizontal. You know, your body is moving, your arms are moving, your legs are moving. Cycling is you're sitting down, just your legs are working, so it's going to be a little lower than your running heart rate and then your swimming heart rate. So you should have heart rates for each swimming, biking, and running to that point. So really good question. Thanks a lot, Tim. If you guys have other questions, write GERRY at tower26.com. If you want the question to be read on air by yours truly, you can write me, Jim, at tower26.com. Gerry, a lot covered in this episode. What are we going to talk about next episode?
Well, by the time our next episode comes along, we're going to be moving into another phase in our plan, right? We'll be getting ready to move into our sharpening phase. I think there'll be a lot to discuss there on, one, why do we do that? And then what are the ingredients of the sharpening phase, why we do it, and what do the complexion of those workouts look like?
Yeah, I love it. I love this. I love this time of year. I love building on top of the foundation. I love sharpening. This is so fun. Every workout is interesting. Every workout's fun. So go to coaching.tower26.com. Keep signing up for those. Anything else from you? Any last words?
Always thank you. You do such an incredible job at making this continuing to flow.
It's a blast, buddy. I love it. And hey, no matter what, we make it work. Whether we're in person, we're virtual, we make it work. And we're going to keep coming for all those coaches, all the athletes who are listening. So get the questions out there. Keep joining the subscription program. Keep jumping in on everything we have. For Gerry, Rodrigues, Jim Lubinski, the Tower 26 Be Race Ready podcast. Thanks, guys.